The war was over, or so the Galactic Empire believed. Inside the Grand War Hall of the Imperial High Command, the air was thick with celebration. Alien officers, generals, and admirals raised their crystal glasses, toasting to what they called the greatest victory in galactic history. Humanity was defeated. Earth's defenses had been crushed. Their fleets had been wiped out. Their cities had burned under the Empire's unstoppable firepower. Supreme Commander Vorkin, the architect of this victory, stood at the center of the Great Hall, basking in the moment. His crimson war cloak draped over his broad shoulders as he lifted a goblet filled with golden liquid. Today, Vorkin declared, his deep voice echoing across the chamber, "We celebrate the end of a foolish rebellion." The officers cheered. Humanity, he continued, grinning, was bold. They fought harder than expected. But in the end, they were nothing more than insects beneath our feet. The celebration intensified. Exotic music played, and the finest drinks from across the Empire flowed freely. Laughter and arrogance filled the room. To the Empire, this was just another victory, another species conquered, another civilization erased. But somewhere in the shadows of the war hall, not everyone was convinced. Deep inside the Imperial Command Center, a lone officer sat in front of a massive holographic display. His name was Commander Rethak, a tactical analyst known for his cold, calculating nature. While others celebrated, he worked. His yellow eyes scanned the data, his clawed fingers tapping against the screen. Something was wrong. The battle reports were clear. Earth's defenses had fallen. Their last remaining fleet had been destroyed. There were no recorded survivors. And yet, something didn't add up. The human fleet was too small. The number of ships Earth had sent to fight did not match their estimated production capabilities. By all calculations, they should have had twice as many warships. So where were the missing ships? Rethak's brow furrowed. He quickly pulled up long-range sensor logs. If there were survivors, they would be hiding somewhere in the Sol system. But the readings showed nothing. No distress signals. No escape pods. Just empty space. It didn't make sense. A deep unease settled in Rethak's gut. He had studied humans before the war. They never gave up. Even when outnumbered, even when surrounded, they always fought to the last man. So why was this different? His eyes darted toward a blinking red light on the console, an automated sensor alert from the outer edges of the solar system. Something was approaching. Rethak's heart pounded. He enlarged the readings. The sensors had picked up movement near Jupiter. His breath caught. The energy signatures were massive, far larger than any standard warship. The readings were distorted, as if the ships were shielded from detection. Rethak's claws trembled over the console. This wasn't normal. He opened a secure communication channel to Supreme Commander Vorkin. "Sir, we have a problem." Back in the war hall, the festivities continued. Vorkin laughed as he poured himself another drink. Then his communicator buzzed. He frowned, irritated at the interruption. He pressed the device on his wrist. "This is Vorkin. Speak." Commander Rethak's voice came through, tight with urgency. "Sir, I need you to look at the long-range sensors. We have an unidentified fleet approaching from Jupiter's orbit." Vorkin rolled his eyes. "So, a few stragglers. Let the defense forces handle it." "No, sir," Rethak said, his voice dead serious. "This is something else." Vorkin sighed. He motioned toward the nearest holoscreen and pulled up the data himself. Then his expression changed. The celebration around him faded into silence as he stared at the screen. Hundreds of unknown objects were moving toward the Empire's fleet. But these weren't wreckage. They weren't escape pods. They were warships. Gigantic, unregistered in the Empire's database, cloaked from scans until now. Their energy signatures were unlike anything seen before. A cold chill ran down Vorkin's spine. The humans weren't defeated. They were waiting. And now, they were coming. "Alert all fleets," Vorkin snapped, his earlier confidence shattering. "Prepare for battle." The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. "Sir, they're coming." Commander Rathak's voice was calm, but his fingers trembled as he studied the sensor data. The readings were impossible. The human fleet, the one the Empire believed destroyed, was here. And it was bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The fears spreads. In the Imperial War Hall, the celebration had turned to silence. High-ranking officers, once laughing and drinking, now stared in disbelief at the massive holoscreen. The unidentified warships, hundreds of them, moved like shadows through space, their energy signatures fluctuating as if reality itself was bending around them. Supreme Commander Vorkin's claws dug into the metal table. "This is a trick," he muttered. "Humans can't have this many ships. We destroyed their fleet." Rathak's voice crackled over the comms. "Then tell me, Supreme Commander, what are we looking at?" Vorkin had no answer. His officers whispered among themselves. Fear crept into their voices. "Those ships are too large, too advanced. This isn't human technology. How did they build this without us knowing? This isn't possible." But the fleet was real, and it was getting closer. The first contact. On the Empire's flagship, the Void Reaper, Captain Selvar watched as his crew worked frantically. "Raise shields," he barked. "Arm all weapons. Prepare for engagement." A junior officer hesitated. "Captain, they haven't fired at us yet." Zelvar turned sharply. "Do you really think they came to talk?" Before the officer could reply, a deep hum filled the bridge. The air vibrated. The holoscreen flickered. A transmission was coming through. A voice echoed across the Imperial fleet. "Calm, cold, human. This is Admiral Cole of the United Earth Fleet. You thought we were finished. You thought humanity had fallen." A pause. "Then, you were wrong." Silence fell over the Imperial officers. Then, another officer gasped. "Sir, one of their ships is powering up." The first strike. The Leviathan-class Dreadnought at the front of the human fleet came to life. It was massive, larger than anything the Empire had ever built. Its dark metal hull reflected no light, as if it absorbed the very void around it. Then, it fired. A single golden beam of energy erupted from its forward cannon. Not a missile, not plasma. Something worse. The beam ripped through space. It moved too fast for the Imperial ships to react. It didn't stop. The first Imperial battleship in its path was vaporized instantly. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Then another, and another. 3 warships vanished in seconds. Panic erupted across the Empire's fleet. "We're under attack. Shields can't stop it. What kind of weapon is this?" Vorkin stumbled back. His mind raced. How was this possible? How did humans build this? He grabbed the communicator. "All ships, return fire." The Empire's fleet unleashed everything they had. Hundreds of plasma cannons, missile salvos, energy torpedoes. They fired everything. The human fleet didn't flinch. The Leviathan's shields absorbed the bombardment like rain on steel. Not a scratch. Then the voice of Admiral Cole returned, calm as ever. "You should have finished the job when you had the chance." Vorkin's blood ran cold. The humans hadn't just survived. They had become something else. And now, they were unstoppable. The Empire's fleet had fired everything they had. It didn't matter. The human dreadnoughts did not break. They did not dodge. They did not even slow down. And then, they fired back. The fall of the First Fleet. Supreme Commander Vorkin stood frozen as the holoscreen showed the destruction unfolding. The Leviathan-class dreadnoughts moved like giants among insects. Each shot from their cannons erased an entire battleship. No debris, no wreckage, just nothing. The Empire's fleet, the strongest in the galaxy, was being torn apart in minutes. The bridge of the Void Reaper, the Empire's largest warship, was filled with shouting officers. "Our weapons are useless. Shields are collapsing. We need to retreat. Vorkin's claws dug into the command table. His mind raced. How did this happen? How did the humans, ***, a species that should have been defeated, ***, build something like this? Then, Admiral Cole's voice came through the open channel. Calm, cold, unforgiving. For years, you hunted us. You burned our worlds. You laughed as we begged for mercy. A pause. Now, it's your turn. Vorkin's stomach twisted. He had been the one who ordered Earth's destruction. He had personally led the invasion of human colonies. He had mocked their final resistance. And now, he was the one begging for time. Desperation. The Empire's fleet tried to run. Engines burned at full power. Thousands of ships scattered, warping away in all directions. But the humans were prepared. Massive gravity wells deployed from the Leviathans locked space itself. No one could escape. One by one, the Empire's ships fell. Some tried to fight. Their weapons barely scratched human armor. Others surrendered, broadcasting pleas for mercy. The humans ignored them. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter. Vorkin's last chance. On the Void Reaper, alarms blared. The ship's hull cracked under relentless human fire. Vorkin grabbed Rethak by the arm. We have to get out of here. Rethak's yellow eyes were wide with horror. We're surrounded, sir. There is nowhere to go. Vorkin refused to accept it. He opened a priority transmission to the Imperial homeworld. This is Supreme Commander Vorkin. The humans. They were Nineveh. We need to reinforce Mentis now. The reply came, but it wasn't from the Empire. It was Admiral Cole. His voice sent a chill through every officer listening. There are no reinforcements coming, Supreme Commander, because after we finish with you, we're coming for your homeworld next. Vorkin's breath caught in his throat. The realization sank in. This was not just a counterattack. This was extinction. The final shot. The Leviathan-class Dreadnought charged its main cannon. A golden glow pulsed along its surface. Vorkin watched as the energy built to an impossible level. The beam fired. A pillar of light engulfed the Void Reaper. The Empire's flagship, gone. Vorkin never even had time to scream. The last thing he saw was Earth's vengeance. And then, darkness. The Void Reaper, the Empire's most powerful warship, was gone. Supreme Commander Vorkin, dead. The Empire's once mighty fleet had been reduced to burning wreckage. Ships that had ruled the stars for centuries floated lifelessly in the void. And the human dreadnoughts, untouched, unstoppable, unforgiving, the last survivors. Aboard the Imperial battleship Wrathborn, Captain Zelvar could barely breathe. His bridge was in chaos. Officers ran in panic, shouting over each other. Communications are dead. Weapons are offline. What do we do? Zelvar's hands trembled as he stared at the human fleet. This wasn't war. This was punishment. He turned to his navigation officer. Find us a way out. Now. The officer's eyes were wide with fear. Sir, the gravity wells. We're trapped. A hollow silence filled the bridge. Zelvar knew what that meant. They were already dead. The message. Across the battlefield, the human fleet stopped firing. For the first time, silence fell over the wreckage. Then, a single transmission was broadcast across all Imperial channels. A video. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, arms crossed, his gaze like ice. Behind him, Earth's flag waved proudly. His voice was calm, cold, final. You wanted a war. This is war. A pause. Then, no more negotiations, no more treaties, no more mercy. Every surviving Imperial officer felt their blood freeze. You burned our worlds. You slaughtered our people. You thought we would fall to our knees and beg. Cole leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. But humans don't beg. We survive. We rebuild. And now, we make sure you never do this again." The message ended. Then, one last order came through the human fleet. Wipe them out. The final kill. The human dreadnoughts moved in. They hunted down the remaining Imperial ships one by one. There were no prisoners, no mercy. For every human colony the Empire had burned, a battleship was destroyed. For every city they had wiped out, an Imperial crew was erased. Zelvar watched helplessly as ship after ship was annihilated. He turned to his officers. "Broadcast surrender. Maybe they'll spare us." The comms officer frantically sent the message. Seconds later, a golden beam sliced through the Wrathborn. Zelvar never even had time to scream. The aftermath. The battle was over. The Empire's fleet was gone. The space around Jupiter was now a graveyard of alien wreckage, and yet Earth's fleet remained untouched. On the bridge of the lead dreadnought, Admiral Cole stared at the destruction before him. He did not smile. This was not victory. This was justice. He turned to his second-in-command. "Send a message to the Imperial homeworld." The officer nodded. "What do we say?" Cole's gaze hardened. "Tell them we're coming." The Empire's first fleet was gone, its strongest warships obliterated, its supreme commander dead. The wreckage of alien vessels floated lifelessly in the void, a silent graveyard of the once mighty Empire. But Admiral Cole wasn't finished. This was only the beginning. The warning. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. Every Imperial world, every colony, every military station, all received the same message. A single transmission. Admiral Cole stood before the Earth flag, his voice cold and merciless. "Your fleet is gone. Your commanders are dead. Your empire is next." The transmission was short. Simple. "We are coming." Panic erupted across the Empire. The Emperor himself, a being who had never known fear, felt his blood run cold. For centuries, the Empire had ruled the stars. No species had ever dared to challenge them. And yet now, the humans, a race they had nearly exterminated, were marching toward their homeworld. For the first time in history, the Empire knew fear. The last defense. In the capital world's war chambers, Grand Marshal Corvath slammed his fist on the command table. "We cannot allow them to reach the homeworld." The remaining admirals stood in tense silence. One finally spoke. "Sir, we lost the first fleet. We have nothing strong enough to stop them." Corvath bared his fangs. ***. Then we build a wall of fire. Call every warship, every outpost, every mercenary fleet. If the humans are coming, we make them bleed for every step." But deep down, he knew the truth. The Empire had spent centuries crushing species weaker than them. But humans, they had survived genocide. They had risen from the ashes, stronger than before. And now, they were coming for revenge. The Earth fleet moves. Aboard the lead Leviathan-class dreadnought, Admiral Cole stood in the command center, gazing at the fleet before him. Thousands of warships. Weapons powered. Engines burning. And at the front, the dreadnoughts. Silent. Unstoppable. Cole turned to his officers. Set course for the Imperial homeworld. A moment of silence. Then, the command echoed through the fleet. Burn engines. Advance. The final war had begun. And this time, humanity was bringing the fire. The Earth fleet moved through space like a storm, engines burning bright against the void. Their course was set, the Imperial homeworld. On board the Leviathan-class dreadnought, Admiral Cole stood at the command deck, watching the holo display. Thousands of ships followed behind him, each one ready for war. The time for diplomacy was long gone. "Status on enemy defenses?" Cole asked. His second-in-command, Commander Reeves, studied the data. They pulled everything they have to the capital system. multiple fleets, planetary shields, orbital cannons. Cole's expression didn't change. Will it stop us? Reeves shook his head. Not a chance. The imperial homeworld of Zorthar had been the seat of power for centuries. From here, the Empire had ruled with an iron fist, crushing any species that dared resist. Now, for the first time, they were the ones under siege. Across the capital, alarms screamed. Civilians ran for shelter. Soldiers took defensive positions. The skies above the planet were filled with thousands of warships, forming a final line of defense. Grand Marshal Korvath stood in the Imperial Command Center, his claws digging into the armrest of his chair. He watched as the human fleet approached. "They won't stop," one of his officers said. Korvath growled. "Then we make them pay." He turned to his fleet commanders. "All ships, prepare to fire on my command. The first wave will strike their capital ships. We will break their momentum before they reach the planet." On the Leviathan, Admiral Cole listened to the intercepted transmission. He smirked. The Empire still thought they had a chance. He raised his hand. "All ships, fire." The first human strike was brutal. The massive golden beams from the Dreadnoughts pierced through entire enemy formations in seconds. The Imperial fleet fired back, but their weapons barely scratched human shields. Imperial battleships exploded one after another. Panic spread across their ranks. "Pull back. We can't stop them. Their armor is too strong. Where are our reinforcements?" There were no reinforcements. Cole watched as the Imperial defenses crumbled. The once mighty war machine of the Empire was falling apart before his eyes. On the surface, the Emperor himself stood in his palace, watching the sky burn as human ships descended. For the first time in his life, he felt something he never thought possible. Fear. Humanity had come, and they would not be stopped. The skies above the Imperial homeworld burned. The once mighty Imperial fleet, the last defense of the Empire, lay in ruins. Wreckage floated in orbit, shattered warships flickering with dying fires. The human fleet, untouched and relentless, pressed forward. Admiral Cole stood on the command deck of his Leviathan-class dreadnought, watching the final moments unfold. His expression was calm, his voice steady. "Begin planetary bombardment." The order was given. From the massive warships above, golden beams of energy tore through the atmosphere. The Imperial Palace, military headquarters, and defense installations vanished in an instant. The once glistening cities of the Empire's homeworld became craters of fire and smoke. On the ground, panic turned to chaos. Civilians ran for shelter. Soldiers abandoned their posts. The Empire, which had ruled the stars for centuries, was now powerless. In the Imperial War Room, Grand Marshal Korvath stood, eyes wide in horror. The Emperor sat frozen on his throne, watching his empire fall apart. A transmission came through. The humans. Admiral Cole's face appeared on the main screen. His voice was cold. "Final. Your reign is over." The Emperor trembled. We surrender." Cole's expression didn't change. Too late. The screen went black. Then, the final strike came. The largest beam yet fired from the Leviathan, piercing deep into the planet's core. The ground cracked. Fires erupted from beneath the surface. The oceans boiled. Within minutes, the Imperial homeworld was dead. Nothing remained. No empire, no throne, no mercy. Humanity had not just won the war. They had erased the enemy. On board the Dreadnought, silence filled the bridge. Reeves turned to Cole. "It's done, sir." Cole nodded slowly, gazing at the burning remains of what was once the greatest empire in the galaxy. "Set course for Earth," he said. The fleet turned, leaving behind only ruins and silence. Humanity had been hunted, nearly wiped out. Now, they were the hunters, and the galaxy would never forget.